sessions, a mini session, and then another mini session after that. We're going to start with the first section, which is social skills. It's a jungle out there. My name is Melanie Wood. I am on the board of directors for ASK, who has put this conference on today, and I'll be your room host. So this session is brought to you by Child Health Specialty Clinics, also referred to as CHSC. We are having some technical difficulties.
The computer's figured out, but no, I don't know what it's doing.
So you want to wait? You want to get started? I'll do some intros and maybe we can. Sure. It'll be up and running by then. So our first session is going to be presented by Elizabeth Delsandro. She's a clinical professor in the Department of Communication Sciences at the University of Iowa. Her primary responsibilities are supervising student clinicians and working with individuals with autism spectrum disorder in the Wendell-Johnson Speech and Hearing Clinic. She teaches graduate level courses and develops quality programming for individuals with autism and speaks at both the national and state level. Her interests include using best practices for individuals with autism, motivation in learning, social and functional communication. She feels honored to have learned from so many individuals with autism and their families over the past 20 years.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
So I'm going to do it without the PowerPoints for a little while, but hopefully they'll come up because you need that information. I wasn't a professor. I haven't been a professor for that long. I just have been doing that for 5 years, but prior to that, I've worked in the public schools and as an autism consultant, and I've worked as a speech language pathologist and an assistive technology person. And I feel really fortunate now that I get to teach graduate students to do social skills instruction. I'm pretty proud of their work. Social skills, it's so complex. And it's something that we have to continually consider through a child's lifetime. And just by a raise of hands, can I get an idea, who has elementary school children? Who has middle school, a junior high? Going in, you're right?
I have almost two.
Okay.
Mine's going into.
Okay, and then high school? All right, and college? All right, so we have mostly elementary, some junior high, high school. I kind of wanted to get an idea of that so I know who I'm talking to. Thank you. Sorry. Okay. Really, one reason why social skills are so challenging is that it's often hidden to a lot of people. It isn't something that's really apparent. And I love the work by Brenda Smith-Miles. She writes these fantastic books. And anybody who wants, I can send this handout to you if you're interested. But Brenda Smith-Miles does several books on what she calls the hidden curriculum. And it's really things that people assume. These are things that you just assume, that it's a set of rules or guidelines in social situations that most people know how to handle, but there are quite a few people with special needs or with disabilities who don't get that piece. They don't know what those rules are in certain situations. And it's really something that we have to kind of help a person uncover and help them become a social detective so they can figure out what are those rules. When I walk into a party or if I walk into a meeting that I have to attend and self-advocate for myself, what are those rules, those set of rules or guidelines that I need to know in that situation to be successful so I don't totally embarrass myself and get mortified or people judge me for it. And the thing is, all of us in this room are learning social skills all the time. I've embarrassed myself a lot in social situations. Who taught us this stuff? Well, it's hard to figure. We didn't totally learn it in school. One place we learned it is from our families, and some of our families are better at it than others. I shouldn't talk about my dad, but I'm going to. Hi, Dad. I'm sure he won't be watching this film, but my dad wasn't good at emotional regulation. I used to help him Saturday mornings in his workshop. Actually, my mom would ask all four of us, okay, everybody, who's going to help Dad in the workshop? And we were all like, none of us said anything. So my mom would volunteer one of us. Because my dad, when he made mistakes, he got mad. And he didn't get mad at us. He was mad at himself, and he would throw things down, and he's Irish, and he had kind of a temper, and he'd jump up and down. And I didn't learn how to emotionally regulate myself from my dad, that's for sure. But I learned it from my mom, and she was quite the calming part in my family. But I watched my mom, what she would do in situations, when we would go to some parties, or we would even go to the grocery store and she would be talking with people. I kind of noticed how she did what she did, how she interacted with people. So we do learn from our families or our caregivers about social interaction. Also, in school, we do get a little coaching from our teachers as well, and mostly in following those school rules. And now it seems as though in the schools, in the past 10 years, there's definitely been a lot more emphasis on social emotional skills. So they're starting to put those programs into schools, which is fantastic, because it just isn't individuals or children with disabilities who need training in social emotional skills. However, those school-wide systems, they're fantastic in a lot of ways, but they still don't always get to what children with more significant needs in social interaction, it doesn't meet their needs quite yet. Also, it's who we hang out with, our peers. Often we kind of emulate who we're hanging out with when we were growing up, our friends, and hopefully most of the time you picked pretty good peer models. Sometimes you didn't, and you got yourself in situations. But we also learn by natural consequences too, by doing things socially that maybe you shouldn't have done, and you feel the consequences of that. We learn through our experiences, just living our lives and banking successes and banking mistakes. And we do learn by our mistakes. But are they really mistakes? I don't think so. It's just part of living. And so that's how we've probably picked up on social skills, how to act in social situations. A lot of individuals with special needs may not be focusing on that area, and it's not always being explicitly taught. So we have to help, we have to be coaches ourselves and help individuals, your children, whether they're school age or adult, to kind of figure that out. What should they be looking at to kind of figure that out in this situation? Because we know the set of rules or the guidelines from one situation to another change, and that's what makes it so hard. It's not like learning science and math, where the rules and the guidelines are pretty, once you learn it, you can build on that learning. It's pretty dynamic. The target keeps on moving with social skills. So it makes it really tough. Why is this so important? It is critical. All of you in this room know this. it's your quality of life. Your ability to navigate the social world, it contributes to your quality of life. If you're not good at it, there's a lot of, it impacts your life. If you're good at it, it improves your life. So, it's the biggest piece is developing meaningful relationships. We need to have those relationships. We need to really understand what a friend is. We do have, I work with some children who can't define what a friend is. And when I talk to the children's families, they may comment to me, I don't know if he or she has true friends. That circle is really, really small for a lot of children I work with. And that child has a hard time defining who their friends are, or if they have a friend. And to me, that's a huge problem. We need to address that. We need to help children understand who those friends are. But we also, as a community, we have to really establish some supports, some networks to support the kids in establishing friendships and relationships. Participating in the community, being active, part of the community, that's huge. There's more and more research, and this is outside of people with disabilities, but there's more and more research, especially for the elderly, in terms of quality of life, that if they are involved in their community, they have a better quality of life, and possibly not even a better quality, but possibly a longer life. And isn't that what we want for your children or the children who I work with in my clinic? So getting out in the community is huge. And I know sometimes when I talk to parents, when they are, they're sometimes challenged, for example, by their children's behaviors, and they may be a little bit more tentative to go out because their child reacts to certain situations in a less expected way. That withdrawal from the community can be, it's not good for the community, I don't think, and it's also not good for that child, and I know it's hard to do. Parents who I've talked to that have that challenge, what they've found is some freedom in finding other parents to go out and kind of be a force and say, hey, let's join forces here, and it is okay if that woman's looking at us because my kid's having a little bit of a meltdown. It is okay, and we're, high-five each other because it's okay. But the kids need to be out there. They need to be out there with support and people who they have strong relationships with and that is their family, and also other community members. When we think of further down the road, getting along with coworkers, getting along with supervisors, that's an important part of your life too. When you're working, and hopefully your child will have a job or an externship or work experience, they need to have those social skills in order to be happy in their jobs, and possibly in order to still stay in their jobs. I work with some adults who have autism, and they're having difficulty in that area. And it causes them a lot of stress, which affects their quality of life. And so I'm working along with my graduate students to help these young adults kind of figure out that social world, kind of figure out some of those rules, kind of figure out why people are responding to them the way they are. Now, what I want to make sure I do, I'm talking mostly about individuals with disabilities, but we also have to make sure the community is very aware and needs to learn too. So it's definitely a two-way process. It's not on it's not on the child, all on the child or the parents or service providers who work with the child. We need to educate the community as well, that we do have individuals that are learning these skills, and that we need for people to be patient and accepting. I'm not good at math, and I don't want people judging me for that. So there's other skills that just have more higher stakes in the community, and that happens to be social skills. We really need to help the kids and young adults be connected, have a sense of belonging, and this contributes to mental health. And it's so exciting that, and I see it in Iowa, that there's just so much more information out there about mental health and more support for mental health. It's critical. Okay, so, you have to kind of find the right fit for your child to develop social skills. And it can be all of these things, or it could be just pieces and parts of these things. There aren't any rules when it comes to how should your kid get social skills. One is being engaged in the community. Another is having possibly some social coaching, just someone to kind of coach those skills. And another is having very explicit social skills programming or instruction, whether it's in the school, with your child having an IEP with a social skills goal, or it might be your child goes to a clinic where they're in a formal social skills group. Right now, that's how I do social skills instruction, but if someone gave me a big grant tomorrow, I would buy myself a fleet of 10 vans, and my graduate students would be going out in the community coaching kids with peer mentors, with peers, without special needs, and we would be in the community. I wish that would happen. I keep looking for those grants that would support that, because social skills instruction in a clinic or in the school needs to be broadened out in the community, because a lot of children and even adolescents have a hard time generalizing those skills from that group into all those other environments. We know that's a limitation. How do we teach this social stuff? Well, one thing is you can consider clubs and community events that get the support that your adolescents or children might need. But you have to kind of learn that. Who's who in your community? I know I'm part of the Autism Society of Iowa, and I'm the affiliate for the Iowa affiliate for the Autism Society of America. And the Autism Society of America is considering getting their affiliates in every state to kind of put almost a good housekeeping approval stamp on businesses and places in the community. They want to start doing that. They want to start listening to families, listening to service providers, listening to people with autism, saying, where are those good places in that community? Where are the good places to go that if happen to be that you get upset, it's okay, people are going to understand, or people or businesses that are a good place for your child to work in. That's what we need to. We need to get our children out in the community and support them, but find out who's doing that. Now, what helps you is finding those parents or forming that group of parents, and you guys can chat amongst yourselves. You know who's doing it right in your community, who needs help but has potential, and then who might not be, what businesses aren't doing it. Parents know that stuff. And I listen, my ears are wide open to the parents when they say that. So I really encourage, if you aren't connected with a group or families, that you get connected and start talking. Because you'll find out where the places are to go to get those good experiences for your child. Because just like us, these kids, they remember poor experiences. They also remember awesome experiences. I tend, as a human being, not to put myself in situations where I had a horrible experience. I don't go there if I don't have to. And the thing is, our kids don't always have the choice. And we ultimately want to, I always say this in my presentations, we want to tip the scale. We want to tip the scale in mega awesome positive experiences and decrease those negative experiences. We all have strong memories for negative experiences. We don't want our kids to have those ideas in their head. Or if they do, we want to help wipe it out and just increase those positive experiences. Find local or state organizations. What's out there, simply just keep on asking. I know it's hard work. Parents search and search and search. Avoid reinventing the wheel. However, if you're in a small community or town with limited opportunities, consider creating opportunities yourself. I have a friend, Lisa. She used to live in Iowa City, and she's a mom of a young boy with autism. And she moved from Iowa City to Greensboro, North Carolina. And they were there for a while, and she was just trying to navigate and kind of figure out what was available for her son. Well, she ended up homeschooling, and she found a great homeschooling community. But it still wasn't enough socially for her child, and one of her child's two biggest challenges are language skills and social interaction skills. So what she decided to do, because my friend Lisa is quite amazing, is she started clubs in her neighborhood. She's only been in her neighborhood for 2 years, and parents are knocking down her door like, can my kid join your club? And these are both kids with special needs, and they're also kids without any special needs. It's like everybody wants to be in these clubs. She's got a cooking club, science club. And we started those things at the Wendell Johnson Speech and Hearing Center with her child involved, and she just took kind of that framework and she shifted it out and put it in her home and in her community. She is going wild, and she's like, Liz, we've got to do something about this. We've got to help parents figure this out so they can start their own clubs. And it can start off with 2 kids, your child and another child. It doesn't have to be fancy. It just takes a little ingenuity and creativity. But it also, you know as parents, you're experts in your kids, and find out when, what rocks your kid's boat, what gets your kid excited. Watch what they're paying attention to, and sometimes you can create a club or experience around that interest. All right, the other area I was talking about was social coaching. And social coaching, it's kind of a hard thing to describe. I teach my students in graduate school who are going to be future speech-language pathologists to be social coaches. But I think about when I grew up, my mom was always coaching me. Like when we were in the library, she was letting me know what I shouldn't be doing and what I should be doing, and when I was doing the right thing. And she would kind of narrate and support me to make sure I was going down the right line. When we think of social coaches with children with disabilities who have social challenges, this might be someone that can hang out with your child in the community. In a way, it kind of resembles Best Buddies, the national system of Best Buddies. It kind of resembles Big Sisters, Big Brothers. But I think that if you can find someone who is wanting to do this, whether it's on a volunteer basis or whether it's on kind of a respite basis to do that, that's committed to support your child and kind of coach your child in those situations. Ultimately, it would be great if it was a peer, but not, it's not like peers can get in the car all the time until they're 16 and drive off and go have a social experience. But ultimately, at first, it might be an adult kind of social coaching. I can't express how important relationships are. You have to find the right people that can teach your kids social skills or socially coach your kids. Relationship is critical. And you see this in really good teachers. Kids who really respect their teachers, they've got that relationship. So that's important to consider. I said this earlier, find out what really makes your kid excited. And start there first. If your kid loves Legos, center things around Legos. If your kid loves to cook or do science, do those kind of activities. Find people that have similar interests. Consider doing things out in the community that center around those motives. I can't tell you how important motivation is to learning. We know that with ourselves. We learn things better if we're motivated by what we're learning. And that's key to development of social skills, particularly social skills. You've got to find a person who can coach that has similar interests or wants to teach in that area, or find peers who have that same interest, peers without special needs. How do we teach it? This is when it comes to specific instruction. There are definitely children who benefit from explicit social skills instruction. That's what I do in our clinic at Wendell Johnson. And we try to find out from families, possibly teachers, the person themselves, what do they need to work on? What are the priorities? And those priorities are going to shift across their kind of movement through school and through life. Some things are going to be more important to develop at one time in their life versus another. Some of you may be fortunate enough to have a social skills goal on your child's IEP. If your child has social challenges, bring it up to your team. Because there's a lot that can be done in school in and around social skills instruction. There's more and more research coming out supporting social skills instruction, a lot more research coming out that supports peers, being peer models for social skills development. And then really thinking, about what that goal is going to look like. What's important to that kid. And there's a lot of, you can also seek out services in your community. Social workers sometimes run groups. Speech language pathologists run groups. Psychologists, sometimes educational consultants, respite providers. I know in Iowa City, the ARC of Southeast Iowa, they run groups. I know that Child Serve in Des Moines, and now in Iowa City, just as of this week, it will also runs social skills groups. So, but I think it's important to realize that those groups, and I'm one of those providers, isn't the whole picture. You have to have that community piece too. And if you can, ask for groups that have peers without social challenges in there. This summer, I am running some groups, and thank goodness for people in the community who are willing to have their kids participate in our social skills groups, because we need those peer models. And I'll tell you, the kids are definitely more motivated to hear, work with another kid, than with an adult. We're kind of boring in comparison. So, I wanted to share, just so, as you're thinking about strategies to use, and resources to look up or to share with your team, these are some really, I would say these are some of the top approaches or strategies that I use as a clinician and have been successful. One is definitely having peer modeling. Every time you have peers involved, you're teaching another person about disabilities, and that spreads and that goes out. Plus, that motivates children with special needs. And kids to kids works a lot better most of the time than adults to kids. We need to teach our kids to be social detectives. Like I said, social skills is like a moving target. You have to have different sets of social skills in different situations or contexts. That's why this is so hard. The rules change. You teach a set of rules, and then you go into another situation and they change. That's tough. Michelle Garcia Winter has some great resources for being social detectives. And I encourage you just to Google social detectives and look it up and find out what it is. We want to teach our kids how to check things out, how to use their eyes and how to use their ears to kind of check out what's going on and emulate or repeat what other kids are doing. Well, most of the time. Then we want to teach our kids the hidden curriculum, and that's those hidden rules. And Brenda Smith-Miles has some great things. Google hidden curriculum. You'll find it fascinating. I can't stop reading about it because it totally explains why this is really hard. Carol Gray, she's not, I was going to say oldie, but goodie. It's not about her, it's about her strategy. Her strategy of social stories has been around for a long time. I'll tell you, I still use social stories. They're stories written to help a child or an adult understand a social situation. They're very descriptive stories. And once you learn how to use them, they can be very effective for teaching targeted social skills. Another thing is that I work with a lot of kids that they have a hard time controlling their emotions. And we need to realize it isn't being manipulative. They truly may have challenges with the ups and downs of those emotions. Their emotions might be bigger than ours. I don't know. But we have to often teach it. And the Zones of Regulation by Leah Kripers, fantastic resource to help kids communicate their emotions, but also kind of learn, okay, what do I need to do when I get too high in my emotions? What do I do to kind of bring myself down? And I have to say my top strategy is video modeling. And that's when you make a simple video and you show what that social interaction is supposed to look like. You can do that with your smartphones, you can do that with your iPads, you can do that with digital. But there's lots of resources out there to do video modeling, and I have to say, it's the quickest way of teaching a lot of skills. We're teaching little ones, 4 and 5-year-olds with autism, how to play by just showing. We have one child, actually he's 9 years old, and he didn't play a lot. He didn't know how to play. And all we're doing is making little videos that are about 30 seconds to a minute long of an adult stacking up blocks and knocking them down and going, yay! And he's learned that just by watching a video and playing with another person. We've taught kids to say hi and greet another person by simply showing 2 people making a video and saying hi and hi back. So it's one of those easy things that as a parent, if you've got a few willing actors, you can carry that one out pretty easily. So those are probably some of my top tools. And I did give resources. So if anybody, I think our PowerPoints will be available to all of you if you're interested in those resources. But I'm also at the University of Iowa, at Wendell Johnson, and you can find me there. Thanks. Yes?
Well, I just wondered when you were talking about finding an accepting community, if you recommend disclosure that the child has autism. I've kind of struggled with when to disclose and when not to disclose, because sometimes it makes people more empathetic, and then other times they have lower expectations or patronizing or something like that.
That's a great question, when to disclose. I don't have the answer for that. It really is, I found that parents usually, they know the readiness of that. I also get the question of when do I disclose to my own child about their disability? When do you tell, for example, a child, that you were diagnosed with autism and this is what autism is. It really is dependent developmentally on the child. But that question about disclosure to the community, I always ask when I work with peers, and peers without special needs, I always ask families permission to do that. Some families say, no, I don't want to disclose my child's disability. But what I might do is, my child is working on this, or this child's working on this and working on improving this. Can you help support that? And without disclosing a disability, that's one way I've done it. But yeah, it's a kind of a family decision. It's a tough one to figure, because not everyone's in the same place in the community with their understanding and their acceptance. Any other questions?